And we're back. So I'm not filming under ideal conditions, but I am getting ready for a trip and I just finished Gild by Raven Kennedy. And I need to give my initial thoughts because if I don't do it now, I'm going to forget. And I'm already going to start reading the second book tonight. So I read Gild in about 3 days on Kindle. And I give this, I looked on Goodreads. I saw how people rated it. I disagree a little bit. To me, this was a 4.5 star read. I'm also coming off of like my first DNF book ever and a pretty lowly rated book before that. So I don't know if the bar has just been super low, but this was a 4.5 star read experience for me. And here's why. I love how it started. It started super punchy and um, it catches your attention with the fact that the main character is like a sex slave in the beginning. That was very shocking, and I was hooked right then about what her story was. Also, I think everyone can tell when they read this book that she's in a toxic relationship with the king. What I couldn't figure out is like how, I mean, it's just really interesting how the main character, Oren, Auren, Oren, how she justifies a lot of his behavior immediately. Like in the first couple pages, I'm like, this is not our main guy for sure. I mean, maybe the first chapter. I knew this would not be like, this could not be her main, um, like the main guy for the series. I didn't even know there were like so many books in this series. I thought there maybe was like one, two, three, but um it was shocking, and I always like I immediately got hooked into how that character arc would happen, how she would come to realize that he's not the one for her, and just like how he's gonna justify his actions too. And I found it really interesting that like in the book he said that he would, or from like his POV, he really does feel like she is the best thing in the world to him. And I think that's really interesting because, like, what he's doing to her is not necessarily what you do to someone that you are in love with. And then there, I just really like dove into it because I'm trying to like word vomit how I felt about this book. I really enjoyed this book. When I saw on Goodreads that people rated it a 3.6, I was kind of surprised by that, and I haven't even read the reviews yet to see like how people, what they were critiquing about this book. Um because my initial reaction is that I loved it. I loved how shocking it started. I love the unique piece about her being like gilded and she's golden. And then when she's captured with the pirates and and poor Sail, um, when they started like building up that, I was like, okay, either Sail or Digby are gonna get axed in this book because they're building up like how much she cares about these characters. I'm like, one of them's gonna go. And so I did get built into the Sail character when he died. I thought it was a little bit quick, like how she moved on from it. But I did really love that whole story about how she would do anything to like take his body down from the mast so that she could at least give him that gift of not continuing to be disrespected even in death. Um, the ribbons in her bag, like I find that really strange to visualize, but I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm just kind of rolling with it. I'm not really critiquing that part too much, but it's hard to visualize like these ribbons on her back. I guess the more that I sit with that, the more kind of strange that is. So now I'm like, oh my gosh, are all these other reviews critiquing that part? But so the ribbons, weird. But I did really like this whole Midas story because I feel like that is the story that is very relatable. Is like someone comes into your life when you're very vulnerable. It's easy for you to put them on a pillar as if they are this like hero and worthy of your like devotion and loyalty, when their actions don't quite match up or they change in their behavior. So when she turned Captain whatever dude pirate to gold, I'm like, she is the one with the power. Maybe this is why Midas protects her so much, because she's the one who gilded up that whole freaking castle, and that's why he covets her so much. And now I'm like, did she gild herself? Like, she clearly wasn't always like this, because she was a pauper on the street in the alleys. So like, she couldn't have been golden this whole time, right? So I'm like, how did that happen? But immediately my mind went to like, she's the one who turned everything to freaking gold. Midas is a sham, and how his wife was like, I know the truth. And he was like, you better not say another word. I immediately was like going down all these rabbit holes. My mind, when she said I know the truth, my mind immediately went to like, oh my gosh, he's Oren's dad. And I'm like, oh, that was like so screwed up with how the book is. I'm like, yeah, there's no way that that's the truth. But now I wonder if she was referring to like, I know that you didn't turn everything to gold, that it was Oren. Because she was so like perplexed why he cared so much about this orphan. So it must be that Midas learned she had this power. But then I'm like, so why, what's with the like her turning herself gilded, you know? But then when we meet the commander of the fourth kingdom, fourth wing, fourth kingdom, there's a lot of like, I feel like 4 is a lucky number for a lot of people. Maybe that's why there's this trend in books. But the fourth kingdom's commander, when he has those spikes, and Oren's like, I know what he is. He's Fae. Also, I have to like unlearn what I know about Fae in these other series, because it clearly is not matching what Raven Kennedy is describing Fae like in Gild. But immediately when she's talking about the spikes and the spikes in his back, I'm like, well, you've got ribbons coming out of your back, girl. So I think you're most definitely Fae. And then when he was like assessing everyone on the boat, you know, trying to talk to Captain whatever face and trying to like barter, negotiate, like, this is who I want, this is how much I'm going to give you. And he glossed over her. I knew that was intentional. I was like, oh, homeboy knows her. There's history here. And now I'm like, oh, is this one of those books where like she lost her memory? You know, that's when you know you've read like way too many romance fantasy books, when I'm like, oh, this guy, like, there's history here. Like, are we going to learn that like my mind immediately went to like, oh, they're ex-lovers. He's playing it cool. Like, he doesn't know who she is. Who stole her memories. But as soon as like pointed out how she was glossed over by the commander, I'm like, how are you going to miss a gold statue? How are you going to miss this like gold girl? You're not. So that was intentional. And he's trying to hide the fact that he sees her and probably knows her. And then once they kill, I love that they like killed that gross man, Captain Pirate face. I love that scene. And then how he was like, what do you think you're doing? And then it was like, you know, very matter of fact, we're getting off this boat. You girls with me, off the boat. And then when they're off the boat and she's like, I know what you are. And he was like, funny, I was going to say the same thing about you. I immediately got hooked for the second book. And then when they gave us Midas's point of view, and then he was like, she's the most important thing in the world to me. I'm like, because you're power hungry and you have no power. You were just using her. Like, this reminds me very much of, what's that one artist story where like the woman, is it Bright Eyes or Big Eyes or something? And this woman was a painter, and this like man basically took her art, like postured as if it was his own, and grew to be like this famous artist, but he wasn't actually the talented one. It was this woman who he just totally exploited for himself and his own fame. I'm like, that's Midas. And Midas has gone a step further with like this weird, very toxic romance too. Yeah, he's very manipulative, narcissistic. I mean, I don't know what a therapist, psychologist could throw out for Midas, but he's showing signs. And so that's my hunch, is that we're going to learn like the extent of that Orin literally, because they didn't really explain it. I think they were just like, the author was, obviously the readers are going to pick up that she turned this guy to freaking gold, that I'm thinking, okay, Midas actually can't turn people to gold. It's her. And then I think she's Fae. And I'm very interested in, I feel like this, when he said in the book, okay, this is my third prediction. When the commander said, like, I have my own sources, like I got my own tip off that this Gild girl was here, I think it was Digby. I think Digby, when he escaped, and I just got chills. When Digby escaped and she didn't know where Digby went, he's not dead. He's definitely not dead. I think he like was in cahoots with the Fourth Kingdom this whole time. I think he had relationships there. And I think he basically told them like, hey, come get your girl. Okay, come get my girl because I have her back, but come get your girl. You know, Digby's, I think, was the tip off. However that ends up lining. So that's my prediction for book number 2. Digby was the spy for the Fourth Kingdom, or the tip off at least, for Orin being captured by these pirates. And then that she's Fae, and that Midas actually has no power at all, and that it's her. I feel like that's kind of an obvious one with book 1, that it's her. I do not know how this King Rot plays into it, but as soon as, you know, like, I've been down this road enough before, when they were talking about how horrible this king is and his reputation is like he's evil, I'm like, okay, that's gonna be a future romance for sure, or it's not gonna be true. So those are my predictions. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed Gild by Raven Kennedy. Read it on Kindle this time and blew through it. I'm realizing how fast I can read these Kindle books compared to paper. And now I'm about to go on a trip, and I am literally just going to blow through so many books, as many books as I can on this trip where I'm on an airplane a lot and trains. I'm going to reread Iron Flame and prep for Onyx Storm coming out. Is that already next week? Oh my gosh, next week. But hopefully I can finish book 2, maybe finish book 3 of this Plated Prisoner series by Raven Kennedy. Okay, let me know if you guys have read it. If you like the book, what star rating you would give Gild, and what your criticisms are. Because right now, no one else's thoughts but my own. My criticism would be like the ribbons in the back. That is really hard for me to visualize and wrap my head around. But that's really it. That's the main one. All right, bye guys.